My Founders Edition copy finally arrived at my house, and I've been able to spend the last couple of days playing around with it and just seeing what it's like. I have to say that there is too much to comment on here. Google Stadia is a very interesting concept that will definitely keep you wondering about its future. So there are some good things, there are some bad things, definitely a lot I would like to touch on today, specifically on performance metrics. But I can't wait to share my experience with you. So with that said, is Google Stadia worth it in 2019? Well, this taught me to never pre-order anything ever again. Let's begin. This video is sponsored by Fifine, the makers of some of the best audio gear on a great budget, like the ones from their C1 models featuring a professional grade lavalier mic and the headset mics bundled together. Links to everything below. So let's begin with an unboxing. And I have to say that this actually was a very fun unboxing to do, as Google always puts so much love into the unboxing experience of their products. So it's always awesome being able to get products from Google and just take it apart, because there's just so much in there. After removing the plastic wrapping, I lift up the lid to find the Stadia controller right at the very top. My first impressions of it are that it has more heft than I expected, and it's got a good grip. But putting it aside, you can lift up the base to find the power cable for the controller and a power brick. Remove those to lift up the following lid and take the instructions and manuals from the sleeve. It's just simple instructions and warranty stuff with some Stadia stickers. I will put this aside to reveal the Chromecast Ultra and a power brick for it. That's it. The unboxing experience for the Google Stadia Founders Edition is really cool, so I'm happy there. Now for the rest of the review. And the Chromecast Ultra is actually built really well. It's just going to be a very small hockey puck that plugs into your TV through the HDMI port or into a monitor if you prefer. This is the only way to use Stadia on your TV so far, and it only works on the bundled Chromecast, unfortunately. Supposedly there's going to be an update in the future to work with other versions of the Chromecast Ultra, but at this time it only works with the one that comes in the box with Google Stadia. However, one of my favorite things about this whole unboxing, or Stadia in general, is actually the controller. So there's definitely a lot of mixed reception when it comes to this controller, but I actually really like it. When I first picked it up, I thought it had a decent amount of heft. It actually felt pretty good, in my opinion. Now, the joysticks feel right, the positioning is something I very much appreciate too, and the triggers feel pretty good. Now, the bumpers don't feel all that great, they feel okay. But the rest of the buttons are actually very mushy, they're not my favorite. A little bit clicky, but also not really, since they just feel very empty and echoey when you press down on them. But the grip on this controller is great, the texture's awesome. The textured back makes this controller so comfortable to use. This controller is actually pretty nicely designed in my opinion. And another great feature is that it has a USB-C port instead of micro USB, which you will find in almost every single controller out there. So this is a very cool inclusion. However, this controller standalone should be around $50 to $60, not $70. This controller is definitely overpriced for that matter. So far, there are actually quite a few games available. Now, there were supposed to be less games at launch, but thanks to many complaints from people, we ended up getting quite a lot more. I believe that it was supposed to be 12 and we ended up getting 22, which is almost twice the amount we were supposed to get. And among those, for free, you will get Destiny 2 with all of its expansions and DLC, which is really cool. I will probably end up buying Final Fantasy 15. I'm actually very happy to see that game up there. But for now, most of my testing will be done on Destiny 2, since it is a pretty fun game and it's already free, so it's risk-free for the time being. And now into performance. Now, thanks to the fact that I have Verizon, we got a pretty reliable 5G network here where I live. So I have to say that performance wasn't actually too bad while using the Chromecast Ultra. I plugged it up to my TV. This is a 1080p TV, so I presumably was playing at 1080p, and performance wasn't really too much of an issue. I mostly experienced some problems when I was actually just starting up the game, because when I was starting it up, it seems to try to put itself together and it's actually lagging quite a bit, but once it gets past that, the game actually performs pretty smoothly, even if it doesn't look that incredible. Admittedly, it looks like I'm playing at pretty low settings if it is still running at 1080p, so that is definitely interesting. Either way, while I wouldn't use this configuration to play competitively, it was actually pretty fun for casual play. I'm mostly a casual gamer when it comes to shooting games, if I like any of them at all. To be frank, I'm more of an RPG guy. This game was probably running at somewhere between 30 and 60 frames per second. Granted, performance was mostly consistent actually, and It was pretty rare for me to experience any frame drops, but it did vary from session to session, even if for the most part on the Chromecast Ultra it was fairly consistent. My favorite part about it is that I was able to use my Stadia controller with it just fine. It was actually rather seamless, which is pretty cool. So overall, playing with the Chromecast Ultra was actually pretty good, and I enjoyed it for a casual experience. However, while I'm going to touch on other aspects on Google Stadia, I have to say goodbye to the fact that you can't use this controller wirelessly in any other format. So let's get started. Next up is going to be mobile performance, which was actually probably the best performing mode, in my opinion. Now granted, I was still connected to Wi-Fi, and it was still the 5G network, so it should have still been running pretty well. And it was actually. Performance was actually pretty good. The game looked its best with the sharpest quality settings, it seems, the best colors. It was just great. It was a much better experience in a way. So for mobile gaming, it's actually pretty cool. But what completely ruins that experience is the fact that you have to plug in your Stadia controller to your Pixel device. I was using a Pixel 4 for my testing through a USB-C cable. So they have to be hardwired. You cannot use this wirelessly with the Pixel 4 yet. Totally immersion breaking and atrocious. I would not carry this setup around with me at all. So for a mobile setup, it's actually not ideal by any means. No way I'm going to be seen with this one in public. Sorry, but this is going to be just an in-home thing. But nonetheless, performance was pretty good. Now, laptop performance, or should I say when I try to plug this onto my laptop, you actually have to use it by going to Stadia's website, logging in, and then you can finally begin playing. You have to hardwire the controller again, which means that no wireless compatibility at this time. And even though I was still connected to the same 5G network as I was in other devices, and I was using a higher resolution display. This is a Razer Blade 14. It's about 3K display, I believe, or around so. Surprisingly, the game looked its worst here on my laptop, on the middle ground screen between my phone and my TV. Textures just looked a little off. It was very pixelated. And if I were to guess at what resolution it was running at, it must have been running at 720p at pretty low settings. It just wasn't that enjoyable. It didn't look all that great, even if it was performing okay sometimes. On my laptop, I actually got the worst performance. Frame drops were definitely a lot more frequent, a lot of inconsistencies, so this is easily my least favorite way of playing games with Google Stadia. Easily the most tedious too. So now in terms of usability, there's definitely some good things to talk about here. Like, for example, having a good feeling controller included in the box, though this is very subjective. A lot of people don't like it and some others like it. I happen to fall into the group that actually likes the Stadia controller. I think it's really cool. I also really like the fact that you can just seamlessly transition from device to device. Like if I was playing on my TV, for example, and all of a sudden decided that I wanted to play on my Pixel, I could just log into the Stadia app on my Pixel, plug in the controller, and just start playing from there. It'll take me to the game as from the last point that I was at. It's just a very seamless transition. And also not having to download any games is pretty cool. I don't have to wait for anything to start working. I can just get a game, click on it, and I'm already in it. Don't have to worry about patches or anything of the sort, so that's pretty cool. But there's a ton of bad, and I won't be able to finish listing everything here, but let's begin. Performance isn't consistently good. On the Chromecast Ultra, it was pretty decent. On my phone, it was actually pretty okay as well, though I'm concerned for when I'm not connected to Wi-Fi and I have to use my mobile data to play it, games on it. That could be very detrimental, and it could definitely kill off my data for that month very easily. I hate that I can't look through the store while just using the Chromecast Ultra. If I want to browse for games or anything of the sort, I have to use the Stadia app on my Pixel phone. It cannot be done on the Chromecast while using this controller wirelessly when it would be the most comfortable way of doing it, which is a huge missed opportunity. You can only select games from your games library using the Chromecast Ultra. That really sucks, to be honest. It's pretty immersion breaking again. Also, the games library that they've got isn't really all that great. They have a lot more games than we were expecting at first, and I'm definitely happy to see Final Fantasy 15 on there, and I will most likely end up getting that in the future. Games should be cheaper on this platform, because a lot of these games are older, and even though if you're a pro member right now, as I am, then they are on a small discount, but they should just be normally cheaper than that. Considering that, again, these are all older games and they won't even be performing at their best since they're going to be streamed over the net. So that should be kept into consideration. Not to mention that you don't even own these games, you're technically just renting them for a really long time, which sucks. Also, no wireless controller capabilities with anything that isn't the bundled Chromecast Ultra. Huge missed opportunity there, and something that should be basic. Every controller that I've ever seen that works wirelessly connects to something else that isn't just a proprietary device. So this is really stupid to me that it's missing. And just in general, too many missing features, like you don't get your buddy pass, so you can't share that with any of your friends anytime soon, not until they give us that. Also, the Google Assistant button on this controller only works on the Chromecast Ultra, and it only works sometimes, not all of the time. There's also no 4K 60 FPS like it was promised at first, and there's just a lot more to complain about here. But you've already heard it everywhere by now. Google Stadia just isn't really worth it as is. And this should honestly serve as ample proof as to why you should never pre-order anything again. Because every time you pre-order something, companies take advantage of that to screw you, the customer, over. And I was guilty of pre-ordering the Founders Edition even if I knew that I could get screwed over for it. But I still wanted to try it. I still wanted the opportunity to see how far cloud gaming has gone and how far Google could take this. Even though this didn't launch as it was supposed to, hopefully in the future we will get those features. So I will be keeping my copy of the Founders Edition kit. And hopefully in the future I will get to revisit it and give you some more insights if it actually improves or not. Because I do want this to succeed, so I will support this for now. However, for now, if you're just the average consumer, don't buy this, because it's just not worth your money. Wait until Google gives you the features that they promised you at launch, and then maybe consider it. Maybe. So if you're interested in purchasing the Google Stadia, or perhaps any of the gear that I use in my studio or so, if any of that interests you, then I will be making sure to leave links to everything in the description. All of these are affiliated links, so if you use any of our links to make a purchase, and we do get a small commission, that does help us run things a little more smoothly around here. So we would really appreciate that. Links for everything in the description. This has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you all later. Enjoy.